What's going on, guys? Bflattened here with another build video. This one is by far the most requested video and build that I've been asked to do for YouTube many times. This is Zaneboni. Zaneboni works off of slide speed. This one is also going to be working off of our little drone guy and our barrier. Before we get into the challenge on Mayhem 4, let's go over our items and then our skill tree, and then we'll just go and see exactly what the point of this build is. So a lot of the things that you want to do is you're going to want to be using some ice type and cryo weapons, mostly with this anointment. While Sentinel is active, gain 50% of damage as bonus cryo damage. This anointment is crazy when you combine it with the Becca and the Maggie, my two primary weapons. When I need to, I use the Nighthawken for the extra cryo damage, and I have the Brainstormer just in case my action skills end for more weapon damage to badass, named, and boss enemies, which on Mayhem 4 are going to be active very often. I'm using a Transformer. This Transformer here also has a kill skill that is active with it, so I get 5% more weapon damage and reload speed. This effect can stack, so whenever I kill an enemy, it's just going to keep on stacking and stacking and stacking, therefore I do more damage. I do use two action skills, so I don't throw this thing very often. However, we're going to get into a little bit later, but the drone can throw out grenades. When the drone or the clone throw out grenades, the anointment does activate. So on grenade thrown, weapon, grenade, and action skill damage are increased by 25% for 6 seconds. I'm using an icebreaker. The icebreaker is going to be doing more increased damage to frozen targets, so I'm getting an extra 31% damage to enemies that we freeze. This one I switch out quite often depending on the situation, but mostly for trash mobbing I use a Cold Warrior. The +5 boost that it gives and the weapon damage is crazy. Plus, whenever I freeze an enemy, a random status effect is applied to them, whether it be like cryo, shock, fire, you know, etc. Whatever I freeze, a random element can be applied to that enemy while they're frozen. So getting into the skill trees, I'm going to be going over some of the main skills that we use, just like always. Feel free to pause the video at any point in time during these skill trees if you want to copy it down, rework it to your own satisfaction. You go nuts. Synchronicity is one of the main skills with this. I get 40% gun damage per active action skill. Since I'm using two, and the point of this build is to reset them, I'm getting 40% active action skill damage with my gun constantly because I'm always resetting them. Going into the blue tree, violent speed and violent momentum for extra speed. That's part of Zaneboni. That's going to be part of our movement, sliding, jumping, passive movement. Extra gun damage just at default walk speed is 20%, which is crazy. Death follows close, so kill skills gain increased effectiveness. I use bad dose for my Sentinel here. The Sentinel here is going to be doing radiation that weakens enemies and buffs me. I also use static field so that it's going to be shock damage to enemies and they replenish my shield. Green tree is where you're going to be getting most of your effectiveness out of. This is the barrier tree. This is also where your cryo damage is going to be appearing from. So some of the main ones is brain freeze, of course. Getting a critical hit on an enemy slows them down, and it'll keep slowing them down until they are eventually frozen. You do not have to have cryo damage. As long as you're hitting crits with your weapons, you get that effect. So confident competence is really good as well. I gain increased gun damage and accuracy whenever my shields are active. So as long as my shields are alive, gun damage goes up to 35% and accuracy goes up. Mostly used for the gun damage. Calm Cool Collective. This is probably one of the best skills in the game right now. Between all 4 characters, arguably. This is probably one of the best, arguably one of the best skills, and it's not even a capstone. Very good. There's quite a few chain effects that happen with it, so we'll go over this really in depth. Whenever Zane freezes an enemy, his shield instantly begins recharging. So if my shield is down, it instantly starts recharging if it is down. If my shields are already full, which most of the time they are, I regenerate health for a few seconds. If my health is already full and my shields are already full, my action skill cooldowns and duration are immediately reset, and we just keep on going. You're going to be seeing this active a lot whenever we go into field testing with it. Refreshment is pretty cool because whenever I damage a frozen enemy, I get lifesteal. So that goes with this pretty nicely. If my shields are already full and my health is already full, you get the point. With this, we're using Deterrence Field so that there's shock damage with our barrier. We can use that to bully a little bit. An all-rounder so that our barrier becomes a dome and it covers all sides of Zane. That we're protected from all angles rather than just like a wall in front of us. I think that pretty much covers all the skills. I think we can just go right into field testing and see what this bad boy does. There's actually one thing I forgot to mention, now that I remembered. We can switch out our Cold Warrior. I actually don't have my AntiFreeze on me. There is another class mod that I have called the AntiFreeze. Whenever we're sliding, we do more damage. Whenever we're jumping, we do more damage. That is part of Zaneboni as well. Getting that quick slide and moving out the Moxie's endowment for Snowdrift Victory Rush. Combining those together, you're doing extra damage. I usually use it for bossing, which is why I don't have it on me. Crash mobbing, Cold Warrior for sure. Let's go ahead and get this started. So we start with barrier, get our barrier going. Drone comes out after. Right now we're using our Maggie. Maggie's doing a lot of damage. As you can see, both my health and my shields were full. So while that happens, my action skills reset, which means my barrier stays alive. My drone keeps flying around. There was recently a patch that came through, a hotfix, where bullets were no longer able to pierce through Zane's barrier. That wasn't supposed to happen originally. However, it is now fixed. Things that will go through your barrier. Elemental effects that hit the ground, such as like shock pools or fire pools, those will hurt you. Explosions will hurt you. But normal general bullets, they won't do much to you at all. They're just going to bounce off your shield more than anything. I think I'm able to move on, but the shield doesn't always drop right away. There we go. It's the one weakness of Zane, is when those barriers don't drop right away. We don't have something to kill. You can't reset our action skills. So we've been seeing a lot of the Maggie. Let's go ahead and switch out weapons just to show that everything can work. That's a Storm Chucker. Now this isn't getting its bonus effects. This is just normal Nighthawk and damage by itself. Here's our Becca. It gets 50% extra cryo damage at the moment because Sentinel is active. Just dumpstering everything here. Like it's nothing. We are on Mayhem 4. If you check in the very bottom underneath my experience bar, you will see that we are on Mayhem 4. I've seen multiple times where people have said that Zane can't do Mayhem 4. It's just not possible for him. I think that Zane is starting to have a change of heart with people now that we've seen a lot more things from Zane, such as the first DLC, Seen Dead Calm, which is really, really nice for Zane's kill skill build, his blue tree, which is primarily his main gimmick. I do have a kill skill Zane that I'm working on at the moment, so eventually that will come through on our build list. But I believe that Cryo Barrier Zane has always had quite the domination. He's always dominated. I have actually done speedruns of this on stream. If you have not seen, the fastest I was able to complete this in was just over 4.5 minutes. That was on Mayhem 4, and that was also with the shield barriers being kind to me after I killed everything. Nog glitches seem to be the biggest problem for me. You might see and find the same thing. What you want to do with Nog glitches, bully them with your shield. Bully them around with your shield. And then use whatever weapon you're using just to knock them out. They have that little, the crit spot on their middle back. It's kind of like a target circle. Hit that a couple times, they'll fall over for you. I learned very, very quickly that those things will be very, very annoying. They'll be a little bothersome. We've seen Bully Zane work in action before, so this is a little drawback to Bully Zane. Oh, I lost my barrier for the first time. I did not do a good job. Generally speaking, if you do everything right and you didn't screw up like I did there, you should be able to have all your action skills active pretty well the entire time of whatever you're doing. I have not lost my shields at all, which means I've never gone to fight for my life. We're, knock on wood, practically invincible at this point in time of the game. Now there are some mishaps that can happen for sure. Like you've seen me screw up the reset on barrier. I'm actually going to lose it here now. There are some mishaps that can happen, some screw-ups. It's totally fine. You can get them back really, really quickly, as you can see. My shields are back. If you're lucky enough not to take damage, you can just reset it whenever you want. Arbalist of Discipline doesn't even do any damage with his missiles. They're just kind of bouncing off the shield, as you can see. Zane laughs in the face of explosions and regular bullets when his barrier is up and active with him. There's another skill I do want to go over that I recalled that I missed. And I actually went over this on stream. Is that an AntiFreeze? I got an AntiFreeze on the first try. Why now? Why now during a build video do I get the AntiFreeze? But on stream when I'm running for it, you haven't seen, I ran this hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, but no, I had to get the AntiFreeze on a build video. I don't know what to say right now. So this is what I wanted to show earlier. While sliding or airborne, Zane gains 40% weapon damage, 20% damage reduction. While slow, Zane gains 25% movement speed. I haven't got exactly what I would call a god roll on this yet. However, something like weapon damage, Jacob's crit would be nice. Even just like action skill cooldown rate would be okay. Kind of pointless, but it's also usable and workable as well. And then combining the AntiFreeze with the Snowdrift, being able to slide 102% of the time, you get damage reduction, you get more damage in general. It is pretty nice for bossing. Trash mobbing, I don't suggest it. Trash mobbing, stick with your Cold Warrior. The other red skill that I was testing with Kill Skill Zane, and I mentioned this earlier, Borrow Time. Zane gains increased action skill duration for every active action skill. So for how long I have Barrier and for how long I have Sentinel up, I get more action skill duration. I don't have this on my Kill Skill Zane, and you can notice the significant difference when you have 0 on this thing or if you have 5 on this thing. It is a very significant difference. Kill Skill Zane requires you to kill very, very quickly, where this one is kind of more relaxed. You don't have to push as hard. So Borrow Time is definitely very key on this build as well. I did forget to mention that at the start. Things that you can sub out if you don't have the Becca or the Maggie, or you don't want to farm for them, because these kind of are a big pain to get. Other things that you can substitute for it, I do have a Craps. This is from the new DLC. It's a pretty good Torque pistol. I got it with the same anointment. That is pretty substitutable for the Maggie. It works really, really nice. I have a Lucky 7. Of course, the Lucky 7 roll is also really, really good. Another Jacob, so if you do have that Jacob's weapon crit, you're going to be going to town with this thing. The damage that I got on this roll was not very good, but you can also find really good rolls on it. They go over 1,000 damage. I don't know if I have anything else on me that is also amazing with it. I do have an auto aim with that Sentinel Cryo as well. Bunch of action skill damage. I do have a Phasor. I picked this thing up recently. I've always been a fan of the Phasor. If you've seen the Moe's build video for Radiation, you know that I'm a big fan of the Phasor. This one's Radiation, and while Sentinel is active, you get 50% damage as bonus cryo. Listening will go to town for you as well. This was a really nice find for me. Can definitely substitute over the Becca if you don't want to read-only farm for it, or if you're on console. It's kind of a pain in the ass to get for a anointment, so you can substitute with any of the weapons that I displayed there. Lucian's Call is also pretty good. It's always been a really good, solid weapon. Anointment is dependent on your preference and playstyle. Mine is on action skill end, which is not really the best for this build because the point of this build is to keep all my active action skills active 24/7 no matter what I'm doing. Always reset and everything. I think that'll do for Zaneboni. I'm pretty sure I showed off everything. I did build this on stream. I was very, very proud of it. It took a long time to put this thing together. But I'm really, really happy with the outcome, and I'm really happy to share it with you guys. Speaking of streaming and speaking of building on stream, if you guys do not know, I stream 5 days a week from Tuesdays to Saturdays. I do Borderlands content from Tuesday to Fridays. I always start at 5:30 p.m. CST, and I usually go for a minimum of 4 hours, usually 8, but I have pushed to the maximum of 38 before, so there's never really a solid end time. But we always do stuff like character builds, challenge runs, and tutorials for the game of Borderlands. I'm not the most experienced, I will admit, but I have over 1,000 hours in Borderlands 3, 15,000 hours in the franchise, and I'm really, really happy with that accomplishment. I hope to see you guys on a stream. In the meantime, my name is Bflattened, and I'm signing on out of here. Take care, guys.